Good morning and welcome to another edition of Let It Be Known, another day. And I am your host, Stacy Brown.
Peace and love, everybody. I'm your co-host, Niele Anderson. We have a lot of headlines to get through today. Lots of things happening, impacting and uplifting the Black experience. So, Stacy, let's get to it.
Oh boy, yeah, it's a lot. We start, of course, with our producer's cut.
Do you believe in January, February that the 1965 Voting Rights Act will still be standing, or do you believe it will be demolished?
I believe it will still be standing because if it comes down, the legitimacy of our court also goes with it. And I would like to believe that the 9 justices on the Supreme Court understand the stakes and are also looking at what's already happening, even with the Voting Rights Act in place. And that tells its own story. Without the deterrence of the Voting Rights Act, without the possibility of Black voters being able to vindicate their rights, this is going to be a free-for-all, and Black voters will be the first group to be fully exploited with virtually no protection.
Oh, I think her argument is exactly why it's going to fall. She's saying that she doesn't believe it's going to fall for those reasons. Those are the reasons it's going to fall, I think, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, historically, when we look at, the Voting Rights Act of 1965, we know that in the beginning, Congress didn't want to pass it. And, the story behind it is in 1964, when the Civil Rights Act passed, Dr. King and the Big Six were pissed off, and they didn't even want to support really the 1964 Civil Rights Act because the Voting Rights Act was not in it. But Lyndon B. Johnson knew that he couldn't get it through Congress and it had to be taken in steps. So I'm saying all this to say is that voting rights have been a long fought fight for Black people in this country. And so it's still a fight. And I understand what you're saying. But either way, whether right or wrong, whether it's here, whether it's not, is something that we still have to advocate for. And, it looks like we might be starting, in the words of Brian McKnight, back at one again.
Yeah, because I don't. It's no way that they're gonna uphold that section. Was it section 2? There's no way they're gonna uphold that.
Yeah, most people feel like it's a goner. It's
Yeah,
a goner.
yeah. Well, and that's not because it should be gone, but it's because of this Trump-controlled, hateful Supreme Court that we have, and John Roberts and his march toward, along with Trump, toward fascism is it's impeccable. You can see it clearly.
Right. Yeah,
And
and I just go back historically because it's the same. It's their ancestors from 1964 that are in Congress today that don't want people of color to have voting rights act. And I just always go back in my mind as we are our ancestors' wildest dreams, so are they, and they're living up to their ancestors.
yeah,
So we have to live up to ours.
they have certainly proven that without question. So we'll see. The decision will come down. Actually, can come down any time now, but we
Mhm.
pretty much know where it's. We feel like we know where it's headed. Anyway, he says David Youngblood says, and with that Section 2 ruling, you lose up to 20 seats in the CBC,
Right.
and that is true, and that's unfortunate, but also let it serve as a wake-up call to the Congressional Black Caucus, to certain members anyway, who
Mhm.
seems to be slow to the draw anyway, who seems to be um, very lacking in their advocacy and their work for Black folks. Not all of them, not all of them, but those who I'm talking about know who they are.
You know,
You just can't support. I'm sorry, Niall, but you just cannot support something just because it's black. Just like the NAACP. I don't know if you're gonna talk about this later or not, but the heat that they're getting. First of all, it's misplaced because they're not endorsing a candidate. What they're doing is saying that black folks in Virginia should vote in their best interest, and black folks, not black folks, but some folks are misconstruing it to say that they are voting for endorsing a white person over a black person, even if they were endorsing a white person, you cannot just simply support someone or something because it's black. And we've learned that in this day and age of the black Trumpsters and the over the top black conservatives.
I mean, that's 100% correct. But I also want to say when we talk about the Congressional Black Caucus, and we say they're not doing anything. I had this conversation yesterday with someone, and we were talking about Jasmine Crockett. And there's a question of what is she doing? But I think that most of the work that congressional members do, and we're talking about the Congressional Black Caucus, is not sexy. And so they're not going to get the headlines for the work that they're doing, but to say that they're not doing anything it's just not true. For example, Jasmine Crockett, when she goes to her committee meetings and those hearings, she doesn't expect to go viral. She doesn't expect to go viral about talking about things like food stamps or, rights for women, or how this committee or this, corporation is not doing that. Those things just happen to go viral. And I'm saying that because most of the Congressional Black Caucus members are sitting in those committee meetings. They're asking the right questions. They're doing their job. They're just not getting the headlines. But to say that they're not doing anything, I just think it's not true. They are doing the work. They are doing their jobs.
Yeah, and like I said, it doesn't apply to all of them, but I would not also apply it to most of them. I wouldn't say most of them are doing the job that black people need them to do. I'd say there are some who are certainly out there on the front lines, but too many of them are, as Charlemagne said, Apex Shakur was too many of them sitting back and collecting certain checks and not doing much at all. That's that, and that is from visual and actual. I mean, not all of them. I mean, I've seen some, like you said. Many of them. I won't say all of them. I think you use the term all of them. I won't say all of them because I know that there's at least a few who are just Judases. As simple as that. So we can, but the other side has that too. White folks have that too. They have their own Judases. So it's not just us. So
Yeah.
I'll leave it there, unless you have
Yeah.
something else to add.
No, I'm just saying I think that they do their job. It's just not a sexy one. And unless mainstream media is wanting to talk to them, unless they say something that's a soundbite, we're not really going to know what they're doing. And so it's easy to say they're not doing anything. But that's just like our jobs. It's not people might say, what do they really do? But you're writing stories all the time. You know what I'm saying? And so I just think that there's, this misinterpretation that they don't do their job because we don't see it. But most of the time, the work that they do is not to be seen, but it is to serve.
All right, I'll give you the last word on that one. Folks, we turn our attention to Hurricane Melissa. Images have shown cars almost totally submerged in water as visitors staying in a hotel they were forced to evacuate their rooms to the hotel's ballroom to wait out the storm. Um, it made a historic landfall in Jamaica, a Category 5 hurricane. Um, they said that the country's infrastructure has been compromised after inundating floods and damaging winds. Just assessing the destruction could take weeks, and recovery efforts have been hampered by the fact that airports have been closed. And so you have Niele, Kingston, and Montego Bay airports closed. Hurricane Melissa was a Category 5 for about 36 hours, which is a record. The previous length of a Category 5 was 18 hours. So
Mm, mm,
it's a complete and utter
mm.
mess.
Look at
There
that.
are seven hurricane related deaths, three each in Jamaica and Haiti, and one in the Dominican Republic. Here I go again. The three people in Jamaica died in accidents during preparations, though. It's just look at that.
Yeah, it is horrific. And that's why I love TikTok, because you could see that there's so many perspectives, like I said yesterday, that are going on there. But to watch the Jamaicans, the natives, cover the hurricane has been
Mhm.
interesting to watch. It's been funny at times, but it shows how resilient they are, of how
Mhm.
they're taking it, how they went through it. Also to see like the perspective of the tourists. The tourists turned into journalists, and they were showing you their hotels, they were showing you the damage, but also talking about how they're stranded. It's a
Mhm.
lot of people stranded over there. And I was wondering, do the hotels give comp their rooms? If they were supposed to check out 2 days ago, are they paying for those rooms or are they comped?
That's an interesting question. I don't have the answer. I know that a couple of years ago, about 2 years, was it 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when we had that huge storm in New York? I was up in New York covering an event, and I had to get a hotel because we could not. It was a storm. What was it? It was a hurricane, or whatever it was. Uh, but a tornado or something came through the city, and I know I had to get a room. I didn't get comped.
You didn't cop, yeah, yeah. I mean, so it could become expensive, right?
Yeah.
And then, when you think about the way, especially United States travel is being impacted by the government shutdown, just getting back, and rerouting all of those flights, compounded with, TSA workers not showing up, air traffic controllers not showing up. It is just swelling to be a mess, if we
Yep.
continue to be in a government shutdown, especially in November when Thanksgiving is one of the highest traveled seasons of the year. Just the backlog of all of this that's happening, we are headed for some serious trouble over this holiday season.
You think about it, even before the shutdown, with the air traffic, it was bad. Imagine now. This is why I say flying right now is not even it's not even in my mind anywhere. Because like you said, TSA. Listen, if I'm a TSA worker at this point, yeah, come on, how demoralizing things can be, are right now. Got to be very demoralizing.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I mean, just the mental toll. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
These
That's what
people
I'm
are the
saying. Yeah.
front line of public safety in the airport, right? They protect what gets on a flight, who gets on a flight. And so, you're playing with fire. This
Yeah,
Trump
big time.
admin is playing with fire. Like yesterday, I brought up the story. I saw an air traffic controller that has to now drive Uber and Lyft.
Yeah.
And what if he's, had to work an 8 hour overnight shift for
Mhm.
Lyft and then has to be to work in the morning? You know, could he fall
Yep.
asleep while he's
Yeah,
tracking
absolutely.
planes, landing, and
Absolutely.
and taking off midair? All of these factors, we have to think about.
Yeah.
And while the Trump administration is often wherever Trump is and wherever they are doing God knows what.
Well, you flew out of when you went to Vegas, did you fly?
No, we actually drove.
You drove, okay, because
Mhm.
I know Burbank doesn't have traffic controllers right now.
Well, they're
Um,
doing shifts, so they're on and off. So that the airport is closing at times. They do have air traffic controllers. They don't have enough, right? And so
okay,
at
because there
times it's been closed. It's been closed, and then it opens. Yeah.
okay, because there was a KTLA
Hmm.
a report not long ago that's showing that it was totally without air traffic control, and that the
Hmm.
pilots were on their own, and they had mentioned in that report too that there was some other places outside of California, other states were having the same problem. Could you
Yeah.
imagine?
Yeah, they're calling them like rolling shutdowns, right? At airports to where air traffic controllers aren't in. So they're routing, maybe in the evening on a Thursday, those planes that are supposed to land in Burbank to LAX or maybe to Long Beach. And so this is the impact. And then in LAX, we have Terminal 5, who
Mhm.
is temporarily shut down. But that has to do too with this construction because, of course, LA is preparing for the World Cup and the Olympics. So all of these things that are happening mixed with the government shutdown is making for a destructive concoction.
Yeah, RNG says he flew to Chicago 2 weeks ago, and the TSA was not really checking. Wow. Also in the news this morning, Thomas Massia, a former New York State trooper who faked his own shooting to impress his ex-girlfriend, has been sentenced to only 6 months in jail after falsely blaming a black man for the staged attack that triggered a major police manhunt throughout the city. Thomas Massia is 27 years old. He admitted to shooting himself in the leg during a staged traffic stop on the Southern State Parkway in West Hempstead on October 30th of last year. At the time, he told police that a black man driving a black Dodge Charger, he gave this whole description, shot him before speeding away, which set off a massive search for the suspect who never existed. They later learned that the entire incident was staged because this guy and his girlfriend, this cop and his girlfriend, were breaking up, and he was uh, trying to get her sympathy. So he had EMS take him to the hospital where she worked as a nurse so she could see him shot.
That's a whole lot of nothing burger. What?
Unbelievable. The things we do for love.
You know? Now, I wonder what's going to happen to him.
6 months in jail.
I see that. Only 6 months in jail. And does he have to serve all that time?
Probably not. You know what? He probably do a few days, but
Right?
he can't be a cop anymore, I would imagine.
Well, maybe not in that city, but the way that cops,
Yeah.
they get fired in one city and they go work in another or another state.
Uh, this is crazy. But the real serious part of this is we see this so often. He fits the description. Could you imagine doing that massive manhunt? How many black men were snatched up, tossed against the car, frisked and detained and questioned? And could you imagine? We see that so often, and
Right.
that's always their go-to black. It's
Hmm.
always it's always a black
Hmm. Yeah. White privilege is real. We talk about it all the time. So yeah, I know in the chat, Dr. Marilyn, she wanted to go back to your story, Stacy. She said, can unpaid federal workers apply for states unemployment?
It's a great question.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
It's a great question. And then she also wants to know about when we were talking about travel, would this apply under trip insurance? So people want to know the questions that you never thought of,
Mm.
about just basic things you question now because of this government shutdown.
Yeah, you do. It's absolutely crazy, but those are great questions, though.
Hmm.
I have to look them up. We have to research that, and try and get you guys answers to those questions tomorrow. But those are some great questions. I don't know if federal workers are. I know there's a couple of former federal workers on the chat. I'm not going to name them because I don't know if they want it to be known, but maybe they have the answer. But we'll look at that, whether federal workers are eligible for state unemployment. I don't know.
Right,
Don't
right.
know. But again, just to close this other topic out, I just
But I just wanted to say something about that too. State resources are being drained as well
oh yeah,
because of the federal government. So even if they can, the way this federal government is working and states are working triple time trying to, cover what the federal government isn't giving, it's going to impact everything. I think unemployment. That's why I think one of the stories you have coming up is so important.
yeah. Well, Mackenzie Scott has struck again in a great way. Man, you talk about an ally. Now, yesterday alone, she gave 38 million to Alabama State University and 42 million to Alcorn State, two HBCUs, which continues a pattern that she's been doing all year long, and she's now given more than $300 million to HBCUs and another $70 million to the United Negro College Fund. She she's been quoted as saying, I should say, that it is important that underserved communities, particularly the Black community, has the same opportunities that others have. So Mackenzie Scott is doing her thing. I think her freedom from Jeff Bezos has has opened her eyes.
I mean, and I also think it's, a great comparison to what he's doing as you watch him travel the country and partying in all exotic nightclubs with his new bride as he prepares to lay off a huge, substantial amount of his workforce at Amazon, replacing them with robots. And here she is, funding education for people of color. So the contrast there, I think, speaks volumes. David Youngblood says Mackenzie is the bomb. She said she's going to give it all away.
Yeah.
And then Orange G said both are SWAC schools and Alcorn needs this ASAP.
Yeah, it's the highest gift in Alcorn's history, by the way. That $42 million. So good for them, good for her. She's been doing this, and it's not obviously it has become more than just a token. It's not just a token because $300 million. I don't care if how much money she has. 300 million is not a token. Her net worth is said to be about 200 and something billion or whatever it is. I don't know, but I know that there was a report that she planned to give $19 billion away. So
Mm, mm.
that listen, Mackenzie, let's talk.
Um, right. So I want to go back to Shonda says furlough federal employees can apply for unemployment. If your role is essential, you can't apply for unemployment. Interesting.
Very, very interesting.
Yeah. Mhm.
Wow. Okay. Well, folks, also happening 25 Democratic uh, attorneys general sue has sued the Trump administration over the SNAP benefits. They are in places like D.C., California, New York, Massachusetts. They argued that the U.S. Department of Agriculture is violating federal law by suspending benefits under the SNAP program. It's the nation's largest anti-hunger program that serves about 42 million people. And they say the department's actions will delay SNAP benefits for the first time in the program's history.
Good for them. Whether Trump and them are ignoring what it means to be a democracy, and the checks and balances of government, it doesn't mean that they're not there, right? And I think this is an example of still staying to the course and doing what makes this country work, and that is the checks and balances. So the attorney general should be suing because this is going come Saturday. Isn't the first Saturday? Come Saturday, we're in a whole different
Saturday.
ball
Yeah.
game.
Yeah.
We're in a whole different ball game.
Yep. And this is where we at, folks. Wow.
Yeah, and so when we look at redistricting in this country, and we've been talking about it. We've seen it. It started with Texas with the big 5 seats. Then Indiana. You saw J.D. Vance going back and forth to Indiana, getting started there. Then Governor Gavin Newsom said, "Okay, we're going to find 5 seats." Then the Republicans did North Carolina. Now you hear the talks of Virginia. And so as all of these conversations continue to happen, you have things like SNAP, right? That is why redistricting is important, right? Because you need representation to combat what's happening with this Trump administration. And I think that takes us to our next conversation of putting the reasons why redistricting is detrimental to people of color. Why Trump wants to take all of these seats and have all of this power, because it's going to take away resources from actual agencies in our communities that serve our people. And so our next guest, Meron Shita, she's a civic engagement manager from Black Women for Wellness Action Project, which is an organization that serves and fights for women of color when we think about, wellness in its whole totality. So welcome, Meron.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Oh no, we're glad you're here. We're talking about, we were just talking about SNAP, right? And that's part of the ecosystem of some of the things that Black Women for Wellness advocate for. So when we talk about the Black Women for Wellness Action Project, can you talk to us about some of the programs and things that you all do to service women of color in California?
Yes, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you for introducing me. I am, again, Meron Shita. I'm the Civic Engagement Program Manager here at Black Women for Wellness and Black Women for Wellness Action Project. So our action project is actually our policy wing. So we are a 501c4 entity, and our mission is to enhance the health and well-being of Black women and girls through things like civic engagement, advocacy, leadership development, and political processes. So a lot of the work that we do is engaging community on the issues that are disproportionately affecting us and creating policies that are going to make a real difference in the systems that have actively worked against us and are still actively working against us.
Well, one of the things that have worked against Black women and women of color forever in this country is the outcomes when it comes to the maternal situation. And I know that doulas are doing an amazing job, and I know you guys are also part of what you do or advocate is for doulas. And uh, how are Black doulas helping to close the racial gap in maternal and infant health outcomes?
Thank you for that question. So I do want to bring it back to what a doula is, because we can't assume that everybody knows what a doula is and their
Sure.
purpose. So doulas serve a really important part in our birthing teams. While they're not medical professionals, they are advocates that provide that emotional support and guidance for mothers and birthing people throughout their perinatal experience. So that is from, when you find out you are pregnant to your postpartum period. So we know that having a doula as part of our birthing team uh, does provide better health outcomes, better birthing outcomes, including things like reduced rates of C-sections, better neonatal health, improved maternal satisfaction, because we want to make sure this is a joyful experience for our Black mamas and birthing people. We do not want to constantly be stressed about whether or not we are going to survive our birthing process. So doulas serve a really important role in making sure that we are comfortable and serving as our advocates, particularly when we don't know how to advocate for ourselves. When interacting with the healthcare system that, again, has historically underserved and undervalued our needs. So the sad truth is that Black women or Black mamas and birthing people are 3 to 4 times more likely to die from pregnancy related causes and disproportionately suffer from complications that result in immediate and long-term health consequences due to pregnancy. And doulas really, again, serve as that advocate to help us navigate that system. Um, Again, when we are not able to navigate for ourselves. So Black Women for Wellness Action Project understands the importance of doulas and have fought to ensure that mamas and birthing people have access to that critical resource. In 2021, we were able to lead the effort in California to secure doula services as a Medi-Cal benefit through
Mm.
our California Momnibus Act. So this means that Medi-Cal beneficiaries have access to doulas if they want one. So part of the reason why we wanted to ensure that it was part of the Medi-Cal system was to ensure that low income mamas and birthing people, we're not excluded from accessing this service that again has shown to improve our health outcomes and protect us as we engaged with the healthcare system.
Nice.
Oh,
Wow.
wow. So, someone might be wondering, what does the Black Women for Wellness Action Project, and we're talking about doulas, what does this have to do with Prop 50? So can you explain the connection between Black Women for Wellness Action Project and why Prop 50 is important to your organization?
Yeah, definitely. So we know with the current makeup of Congress, we're seeing devastating effects of the Republican majority and what they can and do prioritize. Right. For example, the severe cuts to Medicaid, which I think you guys had already talked about a bit. HR1, or the so-called Big Beautiful Bill. Don't love that name, but it is what it is. Which has real implications on our ability to access healthcare. In California, in particular, 35 million people are being threatened with these cuts to Medicaid. And this
Mm.
includes our Black mamas and birthing people. The majority of our births, 50% or more than 50% in California, and I believe 64% across the nation, use Medicaid or are supported by Medicaid. So this is going to have an impact on the quality of our birthing experiences. So all that is to
Wow.
say that who represents us in Congress really does matter for the resources that are available to our communities and therefore for our health and well-being. So Prop 50 really works to ensure that we can send representatives to Congress that will protect those hard-fought wins like California's Omnibus Act and fight for the best interests of our communities.
One of our viewers, David Youngblood, wants to know, how are you guys funded?
So we have been able to really diversify our funding. We don't rely too heavily on governmental funding, so we have not been as severely impacted as a lot of our sister organizations, thankfully. But that's not to say that they will not make moves against, particularly 501c4s, which are able to really voice opinions and bring forth policies that this current administration may not be in favor of. It's not to say that they can't threaten us in other ways. So,
Yeah.
luckily we are not primarily funded through government resources.
Another question he wanted to know: are there other chapters across the country?
So currently we are stationed in California. We do have a satellite office in Stockton, and that's through our 501c3. But we do a lot of national work, and we are part of several coalitions that really highlight the importance of protecting reproductive justice, not only California, but in states that are being threatened even more than we are. So in California, we are a fairly progressive state. We do have a lot of pockets of red, admittedly, but we have been able to do things like codify abortion in our Constitution. So it is a protected right, regardless of what's happening at the federal level. We can't say the same thing for our partner organizations across the country. So we are part of coalitions to help support and maintain those efforts at a national level.
When we talk, oh, go ahead, Niele.
No, you go ahead. You go ahead.
Okay, when we're talking about policies, I know we've been on Prop 50, but are there other policies or institutional support that would make a big difference in expanding access to doulas nationwide?
So there definitely are. I do want to emphasize that I am primarily focused on our civic engagement wing. So we are the outreach arm of our organization. So the policies that our policy team really emphasizes, our role is to make sure community members are aware of them and are aware of those services. So, for example, with the Omnibus bill, we did do a lot of community outreach to ensure that folks were aware that this was a resource that they can access. Because if it exists and nobody knows about it, is it really
Right.
there? So we did a lot of outreach with folks and, tried to gauge their awareness of of what a doula was and what those services are. And we found that more than 80% of the people that we engaged with and talked to did not know what doulas did not know what kinds of care that
Yeah.
they could provide, did not know that there were positive health outcomes attached to having a doula in the room with you when you are giving birth, as well as throughout that perinatal experience. So we really work hard to amplify the policies that our policy team um, works on throughout the year. And every year we have, anywhere from 5 to 10 policies that we are bringing to our state to address the systemic reasons why Black women and birthing people are dying at the rate that we are dying when we compare them to our white counterparts.
Yeah, we connected with you all at the Congressional Black Caucus. We know that with this whole redistricting conversation, the Congressional Caucus stands to lose 19 to 20 seats if this is implemented. And so I think connecting the dots to organizations across the country that come to the Congressional Black Caucus, shows that this is just not about congressional seats. It is about the fabric of our country and how all of these agencies work together. And so before we let you go, I want to talk about some of the call to actions. We're approaching Get Out the Vote weekend, GOTV. So what are the call to actions for Black Women for Wellness Action Project as we look at the election coming up on Tuesday?
So we have quite a few, actually. We want to make sure that people are as engaged as possible, and that goes beyond voting. So one of the things that we are asking folks to do is volunteer in whatever capacity you can. Black Women for Wellness Action Project is going to be doing virtual phone banking from now to election day. So if you are interested in really talking to people and meeting them where they are and finding out what their concerns are, and amplifying why voting yes on Prop 50 is so important for representation across this country, we encourage you to volunteer with us or volunteer with an organization that speaks to your concerns and your needs. There are plenty that are doing this work right now because we know this is a critical moment in our history, right? We ask people to make sure that they're creating a voting plan. We know when we create a plan, we are more likely to follow through. So if you are planning to mail in your ballot through the postal system, please make sure that you're doing it before November 1st or 2nd to ensure that it's postmarked by election day and that your vote is counted. When you're going to cast your ballot, if you're going in person, bring 5 loved ones with you. We want to, again, make sure that we're not just voting, our networks are voting, because this is, again, a make or break moment for not only California, but the makeup of the country moving forward. We also have a voter guide on our website that really, provides the when, where, and how of voting, as well as the potential impacts of not engaging in this race. So we encourage folks to visit bwwactionproject.org. Access our voter guide. You can reach out to me directly if you have any questions. So those are our top line calls to action, but there are always more. So if you're interested in engaging with us further, please don't hesitate to reach out. And again, thank you for having me in this space.
Yeah, I think it's important though to note as well that you don't have to live in California to phone bank.
You do not. We are doing it remotely specifically for that reason. We want anybody who cares about this issue to have the opportunity to talk to people on the ground. And if that's virtual, that's, that counts. So yeah, if you are not in California, you can still participate in our remote phone bank.
Wow. And by the way, a couple of our viewers, Dr. Marilyn says her son's girlfriend is a doula, and Nancy Wall says her niece is a doula instructor. And of course, I have a daughter who's a doula. So
yeah,
there's doulas that provide all kinds of services. It's not just during the birthing process. We have doulas that focus on the early pregnancy period. We have doulas that are postpartum doulas. There are a number of different avenues that doulas are able to take. So it really is such an important role that, again, has such a meaningful impact in how we experience our pregnancies, how joyful it is able to be, and how how they really are able to minimize the level of stress that we have entering hospitals, entering these spaces that, again, have not traditionally served us or served us well. So I can't emphasize enough how important doulas are to our perinatal experience.
Mm. Well, thank you so much. And we will be paying attention, all eyes on California, especially on Tuesday. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for
Thank
having me.
you.
Peace and love. All right, a few more headlines to get through, Stacy. More job cuts.
Of
UPS
course.
has officially confirmed a massive wave of layoffs, cutting nearly 48,000 jobs in 2025 as part of an ongoing restructuring effort. Now, the company says it's closing more than 90 facilities nationwide and
Dang.
reorganizing its delivery network to streamline operations. And Paramount announced that they're letting go 1,000 employees.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. There's a
no, you go
whole
ahead.
list.
You go ahead.
Yeah, there is an absolute whole list of folks, companies, I should say. I say folks, but who are just laying people off left and right.
Let's
And
hear them.
this, well, I mean, you mentioned Amazon. There's also UPS. There, gosh, we can go on to government, of course. There's another. Oh gosh, I had a whole list, and I'm actually, as we speak, searching for that.
Oh, that's what I thought you were going
Yeah, and but
to
I
Oh,
had
FedEx. Mike B
that
says FedEx as well.
FedEx, but we had I had a whole list and a total as well, because I've been working on that particular article as well too. But it's massive, folks. And yeah, here's something right here. I'm sorry. So as you mentioned, UPS, Amazon, Nestle slash 16,000 jobs. Intel is eliminating 24,000 positions. Ford and Accenture have each let go 11,000. Nova Nordisk, 9,000. Microsoft has cut 7,000. PwC, 5,600. Salesforce, 4,000. Paramount says they're reducing their staff by 2,000. Meta let go 600 folks. Target has, as we talked about earlier, 1,800. Kroger's cutting by 1,000. Applied Materials are reducing by 1,444 employees. So more than 4,200 companies in all have announced mass layoffs since Trump has taken office. And of course, we've already gone into, Niele, how his companies, Trump's companies, they are making money hand over fist, despite the fact that everybody else is losing. For instance, I'll tell you this much. Financial filings show that the Trump organization has made $463 million in the last few months from World Liberty financial tokens, and another $336 million from the Trump meme coins. And he's in business with some, as he would call them, bad hombres.
Mm. I know, though. When we connect the dots and we do the list of all of the companies that are laying folks off, one of the things that they could rely on to help sustain them is SNAP benefits.
Isn't that something?
And so, it's like we have to connect the dots, right? To foresee what is going to happen over the next 2 to 3 months. And because it's the holiday season, and because we're such a consumer-driven nation, this is going to be really sad times for families, for parents.
Yeah.
And we cannot downplay that or brush that off, because it's going to impact all of us.
And Patricia Jackson says the worst jobs record is coming. And here's the thing. Unless it's done, the report is done privately, we will never know, because Trump, as we've seen the last two, since he's gotten rid of or went against the job reports in July, He's ordered them not to release anything like that again, so we won't know.
Right.
Not from a federal standpoint.
We'll have to go to the states. And then, some advocacy group is going to have to be that voice to put out the numbers
Hmm.
and gather the data. And then when we think about those advocacy groups, their funding, could be down. And so it's just when we think about what's happening and pay attention, while folks are scrolling on social media, I hope they're scrolling to understand that things are about to get real tight. And speaking of more firing, the White House has fired all 6 members of the Commission of
Hmm.
Fine Arts. Now, that's an independent federal agency that was expected to review some of Trump's construction projects. Okay. Now, their termination comes since Trump implements his ball, the arc that he wants to build, and other construction projects. Now, the commission was established by Congress. And we know that Congress is not going to protect them. And he's looking to put his own people on the commission so that he can continue his free will.
It's past the point, and it's only been 10 months, but it's well past the point where you wonder when or if anybody will say, "Hey, wait a minute, we've let these guys, we've let Russell Ball, we've let Stephen Miller and Donald Trump go too far." And that has to come. You know, if you're gonna do it legally, is that I mean, not legally, but the way it's supposed to be done, it has to come from other uh, white men. It has. I mean,
You know,
some point, at some point, you have to say, "Come on." I listen. I know I don't like black folks. I know I don't like immigrants. I know I don't like Hispanic folks. I don't know. I don't respect women. But this is too much.
he's put gold all over the White House. I mean, that Oval Office. I mean, and who said, in the words of, he's using one of Nene Leakes' lines. No, Sheree's lines from Housewives. Who gonna check me, boo? That's what he's telling all of us. Who gonna check me, boo? Not near
Well,
white man.
right, because he's arguing right now, folks, that his convictions that we always talk about should be tossed out
Mhm.
because of what the Supreme Court ruled. So the fact is, when they made that ruling, it did not apply to his past convictions. However, this Supreme Court, which is in his pocket, 6 of them, um, they're going to rule in his favor. There's no question about it. Prove me wrong, John Roberts. Prove me wrong, Uncle Thomas. It's not going to happen.
Well, let's talk a little bit about some people power, and maybe the people will exercise their power. So it's called Blackout the System, and they're calling for a nationwide boycott. Now, they're urging folks not to spend money from November 25th to December 2nd as a protest against the damaged government and economic system. Now, Blackout the System is a movement advocating for unity across race, culture, and class. Now, they're scheduling this around the Thanksgiving holiday. They're extending it through Black Friday and Cyber Monday. And the initiative aims to become the most significant economic blackout protest in U.S. history, demonstrating that real power belongs to the people, not corrupt governments, billionaires, or broken systems. And so they don't want anybody to go to work. And I think they're making it easy by doing it over a holiday, right? But just imagine if the employees didn't go to work on Black Friday. Just
Yeah, and they'll be
imagine if
fired by
everybody
by
just,
Cyber Monday.
but you can't fire everybody. You can't fire everybody. That would be a call that you can't fire everybody. And so this has been brewing, and they were quiet about it for a while, but they just put it out there because they were calling it a concert. activists have started using code words so that, Stephen Miller and the government wouldn't understand what was happening around them. So sometimes when you see the concert is happening at such and such, it's really a protest or a movement that's happening. So they've decided to come out and just put it out there. And so it'll be interesting. Chat, let us know. Will you be participating in the blackout system? I mean, I definitely am.
Well, the irony of it is that this economic blackout, nobody has any money. So what's the irony of it? What do it's like you don't have money to spend in this economy. That's the irony of it. And then this idea of taking off work. Well, no one's ever against taking a day off, but who's going to? And I'm sure there'll be many who will take this risk, and good for them. But who's
Orange
going
G says, I'm not buying anything except for Old English
OE? There
800.
you go. There you go. So
So we'll continue to keep you updated about the blackout the system, because I'm pretty sure it will continue to grow, especially after November 1st. I think this thing is going to pick up a lot of momentum as we go into the month, as long as this government shutdown continues.
okay. We'll see what happens. What else you got?
Oh, that's it.
That's it. Okay. Well, we got some Black history for you then. On this date in 1929, the stock market actually collapsed, which ushered in the Great Depression and bringing about Black unemployment rates that ranged as much as 40%. And this is where we're headed right now. The effects of the Great Depression would last until the start of World War II, which is also where we're headed, which created massive war industry jobs and a second mass migration of Blacks from the South to the industrial North.
Mm, that's some Black history facts that sound, not too far from where we are now, right?
Right.
A couple more comments before I get to my Black history fact. Nancy Wall says, when you have a mass amount of people, it will be effective. Patricia says, not buying nothing. Dr. Joni says, hey, Dr. Joni, I just can't believe the R's, I'm assuming that's Republicans, are going to let children go hungry after Friday. What do you think, Stacy? I think they're going to let them go hungry.
Oh, listen, to think otherwise is to think they have some sort of compassion that doesn't exist in this MAGA group anymore. There's no compassion. Are you kidding me?
Michelle,
They're slamming little babies to the ground and putting them in what do you call it? That wires and
zip
stuff
ties.
like that. Zip ties.
Michelle Madison says, I definitely need a reason to not spend. For real, for real. Dr. Marilyn says, the Fed workers are the largest employers, will not be stimulating the economy this year. We should be celebrating our families every day, not just a colonized holiday anyway.
There you go.
There you go. And speaking of my Black history fact, I'm going back to the year of 1965, y'all, where the autobiography of Malcolm X was first published. Now, the book was co-written with Alex Haley and became a cornerstone of the civil rights history and was later adapted, of course, into the highly acclaimed 1992 Spike Lee film Malcolm X, starring Denzel Washington.
No, yeah. That was a great role Denzel played. I mean, he generally does, but that's this one. I thought he deserved an Academy for that one as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So Dr. Joni says, oh, it was rhetorical. I totally believe they're going to do it. I just cannot get my heart to believe it.
Yeah.
Me too. I think we all feel the same, Dr. Joni.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's unbelievable. Like, can we get at least 5 white men or women from the Republican side to just do the right thing?
Oh, it's interesting. Of all people, Marjorie Taylor Greene is like going against them on this, going against her party on this, and she's been very vocal about it too. And that's the interesting thing. So maybe there is some hope, because who would have thunk even a few months ago that it would be Marjorie Taylor Greene as the voice of reason for MAGA?
So is she allowed to at least do the parking for the cookout now?
No, absolutely.
I said the parking.
Absolutely.
I didn't say
No.
she could come in. I said, can she
Oh
handle the
no, no,
parking
no,
for the
no,
cookout?
no, 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 no,
Can she
no.
pick up the trash for the cookout?
She can do that. Yeah, she can do
Okay.
that. She can
Okay.
pick up the trash. That's about it. But after everybody's gone, everybody has to be completely gone.
Okay. Just checking the temperature.
um, so here's a question that Greer is putting to us. How many of us are prepared for food insecurity? That's an excellent question, folks. You know, you might want to consider that, especially if you haven't done so already before Saturday. And particularly if you or a loved one is dependent on SNAP. Even if you're not, as we've been talking about, this is going to hurt everyone else too.
Hmm. No,
And
it really is.
yes, we, so we've always believed, and making sure that there is at least some emergency, go bags and with canned goods and stuff like that, that non-perishables is what I'm trying to say. In fact, Shanae is like totally vegan now. Not vegan, but she doesn't eat meat at all because she can't. And we found some. She likes the impossible stuff. What do you call it, impossible burgers or whatever, the meat. And we found some in the supermarket, meats and other stuff that are for folks who don't eat meat.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Well,
who is stocked up?
yeah. Um, well, I found this delicious new brand called Fishwife. It's canned tunas, trout, salmon, sardines,
Sardine.
oysters. Uh, delicious. Delicious. So I've been stacking up my Fishwife. And we always know Big Mama and Grandma. If all else fails, we know where to go get them canned goods.
Well, those who still have big mamas around.
Mhm. That's
So,
what I'm talking about.
yeah.
Patricia says beans, rice, flour. Yeah.
David Youngblood says, I'm certain they will allow the children to starve. Just check out US Aid. Yep. And the starving of thousands of babies. Yeah. They already have a track record. So there you go. It's sad, folks, but if you can, folks, you got to stock up a little bit, and it's tough times. And this is about when we said earlier this year that the big ugly bill will start to really kick in. So you do that on top of the fact that they have eliminated or at least stopped SNAP and WIC. Healthcare, you're going to get your healthcare bill. November 1st is actually when you'll start seeing what most who haven't already will be able to see what they'll be paying for their premiums come January. So it's all hitting at one time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I really believe what Trump is going to do is send out a check. He's going to let it get so bad, and then he's going to send everybody a one-time check.
Well, it is bad, and like I said earlier, I'm still wondering if and when, it's if or when somebody's going to step up. All dictatorships come to an end. That's what we do know, right? All dictatorships that have
Yeah, but
risen to
at the
power.
same time, but there's so many casualties, and
Yeah.
and innocent people and lives are going to be lost, before we get to the dictator. And that's one of the things that I always go back and forth about with my mother and grandmother. Oh, his day is coming. I was like, but how many people are going to suffer before that day? We can't wait for his day is coming, and the Lord is going to deliver. We what are we going to do right now? Because it's going to be a lot of think of Moses and Pharaoh. You go all the way back to the Bible. So many lives are going to be lost in between time. And that's what bothers me the most.
So many lives have already been lost.
I trust in the Lord. I believe in God. I believe in Jesus. But at the same time, what are we going to do? Faith without works is dead. So what are we going to do? We just can't wait on the Lord.
I'm with David Youngblood. There will be no checks. I don't believe there will be any checks.
Mm.
I just don't. I think that COVID thing was different. This is extremely intentional.
Mhm.
And as cruel as this is definition of cruel. And so and they want to show you just how
They
low
want you
they
to
can
be at
go.
their mercy. They want you to
Oh
be at
yeah.
their mercy.
Oh, absolutely.
Orange G, I'm gonna get me a fishing pole. He says the swamp and creeks have plenty of food. Crawfish season is almost here. You know, we might want to invest in a fishing pole.
So what we do know is that RNG will have crawfish and OE, so we know where to go. So OE will knock you off your feet. You can't drink for so much OE. But then again, as much as he works out, I don't know. He probably can take a couple of 40 ounces. So a couple of 40s. But folks, yeah, just prepare yourselves and your loved ones as we head into the more uncertainty in this crazy world that we live in. We appreciate you guys watching. Check out BlackPressUSA.com, Niele, for the latest.
There you go.
All right, we'll see you tomorrow.